And since I'm not my mother, what happens next is going to be totally messed up.
I know I'm late to the party on this one, but I finally got around to watching the Demon Slayer movie Mugen Train, and my god, did I love it. I loved it so much that I had to re-watch it the next day because I needed to convince myself, I needed to be 100% sure that what I watched wasn't some kind of bizarre fever dream. I needed to know that I watched a real, modern movie that wasn't complete garbage. I felt like Leonardo DiCaprio in that one movie he does, you know, where he doesn't really know what's real anymore and he has to carry around that top in his pocket so he doesn't get violently love-hugged from behind by a bear.
I'm dying. Help me.
Mugen Train was a cocktail of beautiful animation, fantastic artwork, and so many goddamn feels. I'm a sucker for the family angle, okay? Sue me. Don't act like you didn't tear up. I see you there. Most importantly though, I had fun while watching this movie. Fun. Do you remember what that is?
F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me.
Shut the fuck up. Sadly, the concept of fun is dead in the hearts of most Western storytellers. What's taken its place is real-world politics, because that's clearly a replacement for media that everyone, regardless of their worldviews, can enjoy together. What could possibly go wrong with that? For all the talk of diversity and inclusivity in the entertainment industry and the American comic book industry, they seem to be very single-minded in their worldview. The industry is dominated by those who would rather focus on the color of a character's skin rather than the contents of their character. I mean, why bother creating deep and complex characters when someone's skin color can just be the replacement?
How do you know he's 7K?
I got a nose for white supremacy and he smells like bleach.
What do you think, boys?
The American comic book industry is a shell of its former self, much like a majority of the film and game franchises we once loved. So hey, join me into this dive into the filth and depravity that is the American comic book industry and discuss why manga is dominating over the likes of DC and Marvel. Before we go any further, I just want to say if you like me and my content, be sure to drop a like on this video and share it around. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Stick around and drop a like at the end if I earned it, or feel free to tell me how wrong I am down in the comment section below. Don't be shy, I know you won't be. A few months ago, it was being reported that the Demon Slayer manga series outsold the entire American comic book industry, and I would be lying to you if I said that I was surprised. Anyone unfortunate enough to have working eyes that even glanced for a second at what most of these Western comic creators are shitting out would understand why I say I wasn't all surprised when I heard that news. American comic books have become the literary equivalent of an acid attack directly onto your eyeballs. It's like a xenomorph splooged its acid blood directly into my fucking corneas, but we'll get into some specific examples in just a little bit. The numbers for US comic book sales in 2020 are finally out, and it would actually seem like US comics outsold Demon Slayer by a small margin. These numbers, however, include the sale of manga series. So, like with all things on the internet, there is plenty of debate going around. To make things fun and for the sake of debate, let's just say American comic books did outsell manga, that these numbers didn't include manga sales. you can still take what Demon Slayer has sold and add one more popular manga series to that, and there you go. You have 2 manga series decimating American comic books. American comic books that have characters like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and X-Men. How in the hell do you lose market share when you have these characters with decades of classic stories? Characters that are known and loved around the world. So of course, with this news and all of these debates going on, you have American comic book writers and artists scrambling to justify the embarrassing performance of their books. And one of those people is Tim Seeley. Tim Seeley's an American comic book writer and artist, and he was having a back and forth conversation on Twitter with another user called Just Some Guy. He has a lot of great takes and really knows his shit, and I'd suggest giving him a follow if you're on Twitter. So just to sum this up, Just Some Guy was pointing out that American comic book companies printed 30% less books than in 2019, and sales remained almost the same. He makes the argument that American comic books have grown stagnant. Meanwhile, we see manga printing more books and manga being purchased more than the previous year. So you have one industry that's growing and the other one that's staying stagnant. Makes sense, right? Well, guess what, dumbass, you're wrong. You see, according to Tim, manga is a part of the American comic book industry. He says they're similar to things like children's comics and digital comics, which I guess if you're looking at this from the most surface level, yeah, they're drawn and they have panels and they have these strange little symbols often referred to as letters. Now, it may be hard for simpletons like you and I to understand Tim's big-brained thoughts, but if we use our collective thinky organs, we may be able to grasp just a little bit of what this mega mind is claiming. I think Tim would have had a better case if he was talking about something like Godzilla, which, you know, that's a Japanese character and it's being published by an American comic book company. That's a better argument, but manga as a whole, absolutely not. Manga and American comics are incredibly different from one another, and the divide between them has only grown larger, with Western comic book companies and writers adopting woke political trash that now permeates through most of the comics that Marvel and DC are lazily dumping at the feet of comic buyers who have been starved for decent stories for years now. Both DC and Marvel have decided to go all in when it comes to wokeness. This is in part because they hire weirdos who can't separate themselves from the character that they're working with. I mean, hell, sometimes they even make themselves the character, like in the case of an upcoming DC book starring Starfire and her daughter? That's what this is supposed to be? Okay. You know what? I'm not even gonna say anything just yet. I'm gonna just let you watch this. Good luck.
I'm Mandy. All my life, I've been the kid of a superhero. But really, I'm like the opposite of my mom, Starfire. She can fly and shoot star bolts. I can't do any of that. Now, Blackfire, my evil aunt, shows up and tells me it's time to meet my fate. So now I have to battle her for the throne of Tamarin, wherever that is. And since I'm not my mother, what happens next is going to be totally messed up.
Now I know what you're thinking, who's this pudgy pile of pastry dough? Well, she's Nightstar, the child of Starfire and Nightwing. Yes, you're expected to believe that this Greek god of a man and this divine goddess of a woman had sex and spawned this frumpy little goblin. There is no way, not even in a comic book, I can suspend my disbelief this much to accept that. You know, it actually wouldn't surprise me if in this comic it shows Nightstar as some normal-looking baby who grows up into a normal child and then starts to defy traditional beauty standards and rebelling against her parents by proving that diabetes isn't a punishment for being fat or something. Maybe at some point we can actually get a crossover between Nightstar and Trailblazer for Marvel. You remember that god-awful Daniel Kibblesmith project, The New Warriors with Snowflake and Safe Space? Trailblazer has her mythical backpack full of insulin. Nightstar and her will have to fight for it. The comic will be the modern-day Batman vs. Superman. Just two buttered-up mounds of dough throwing haymakers at each other. Fuck it, even the Blob can show up. Now that's a man that can be the poster child for fat acceptance. Okay, small side note, when doing research for this video, I found an article from Entertainment Weekly, and it shows Nightstar as a child. She's got orange hair, she looks happy. Wow, orange hair, hold on a second, they didn't erase. Oh, they did erase the ginger, holy shit, they erased her. She dyes her hair black. In the very next panel after she dyes her hair black, it shows this stark contrast between this happy looking mother and her room. It's all pink and cute on the left, and then on the right is this depressed, sad girl who has just locked herself away and isolated herself from her family. Now, I think a story like this can work. It's not like we haven't seen stories where our protagonist starts off like a headstrong know-it-all who thinks they don't need other people to be happy or successful, only to later realize that they're stronger as a unit with loved ones and people who support them. But something tells me that this is not going to be the message for this book. I could be wrong, but I just think that this is going to be one of those faux female empowerment books that says, fuck you, mom, you don't know me, I'm a lesbian and you just have to deal with it. Oh yeah, Nightstar, she's gay, by the way. I'm not just saying she's a lesbian based on how she looks. Although, I mean, come on. Also, speaking of looks, tell me that this author did not insert herself into this story. Now I know I'm railing pretty hard on DC in this video, and to be fair to them, Marvel is far worse when it comes to pandering and their unrelenting attempts to drive away all of their original fans in order to chase social justice points. You can see this in the way that characters are now being written. I mean, just look at this conversation between Hellcat and Tony Stark. And keep in mind, this conversation comes right after Tony breaks multiple bones in his body to save lives, and he's recuperating in his hospital bed. Hellcat's going to sit here and lecture him about his privilege. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh yes, typical white male trying to save people, how fucking entitled. You know that Nightstar chick yelling at her mom for getting her college brochures because she's a mom invested in her daughter's future? Well, guess what? Nightstar, she's the real hero. She's sticking it to those fascist adults. I think the best example, though, is this year when Marvel figured the best way to celebrate America's Independence Day was to have Captain America himself come out and say that the American dream is a lie. I feel like Marvel has just become a YouTuber who tries to squeeze as much money and clout as possible from being a contrarian. Like it's their sole purpose and way of generating attention is just being as idiotic and absurd as possible. You have panels like this coming out from Marvel, and how can you not laugh at this? Laugh at how pathetic the American comic book industry is right now. And it's not always just the woke garbage that's awful. I mean, just look at this cringy ass dialogue from the Thor comic, for God's sakes. Or look what they did to Ninjak. If you don't know what Ninjak is, that's fine, but it has beautiful artwork. And now, it just looks like shit. Like, what is this? What the fuck is going on here? Somebody got paid to do this shit? Does somebody want to hire me as an artist? I have no experience, but I mean, clearly you don't need any. You could just do this. This is acceptable for American comics. This is okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you want to talk about awful dialogue. I mean, just look at this from the Starfire's daughter book where she tries to mock Starfire's speaking style, but it just comes off looking like a goddamn typo. I mean, shit, maybe these books don't have editors. No one's looking over these comics, and they're going to shit because no one cares anymore. Towards the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there has been this growing divide between manga and American comic books, and a lot of that has to do with the people writing them and their attitudes towards their customers. We have consistently seen American comic book writers and artists shitting on fans that they don't agree with politically, and Dan Slott is one of the biggest offenders of this. Not too long ago, he told everybody, if you voted for Trump, fuck you. Now, Dan is totally within his rights to say that, obviously, and can hold whatever political views that he wants, but it's not really a smart choice to piss off half the country, which includes people who read your fucking books. Well, I guess they used to read your books. Good for them that they stopped reading them. Holy fuck, that Spider-Man run is god-awful. Meanwhile, in Japan, when they're not fighting off Godzilla, they have artistic integrity. They have creative people who have visions and a passion for what they do, and they give fans what they want. This is something that Chuck Dixon talked about. Chuck Dixon is a longtime writer of Batman, and he shared his thoughts on why manga is dominating the comic book industry in a video on his YouTube channel. In the video, Chuck says, "It's not too hard to figure out, really. There's a lot of dedication, passion, and craft in manga comics, and that's missing almost entirely from the big two, being Marvel and DC. And not a whole lot of reasons to like what's out now, because what's out now for the big two is for the most part poorly crafted. There's a few exceptions, but for the most part, it's poorly crafted, poorly conceived, there's an obvious political agenda to everything, and there's no variety." And I could not agree more with his sentiments. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that creativity in the West, it's not valued anymore. It's been squished, stamped out by the outrage mob, where if they see anything that does not conform with their worldviews, they freak the fuck out and get it canceled. Hell, they don't even just get the project canceled, they get the individual canceled. Meanwhile, in Japan, you got a hentai artist that's just like, I'm gonna have this tentacle fuck this girl again for the 13th time, whatever. They don't give a shit. They're doing what they want. Obviously, it's not just with hentai, though I'm sure the creative scene with that is just booming. They're blossoming over there like weird, slimy flowers. They have creative freedom, and that is necessary for good stories. Now, I don't know how good these hentai stories with tentacles are. Maybe I know a little more than I'm letting on, but regardless, you need to be able to make what you want without fear of some crazy people showing up at your doorstep because you didn't have enough trans-disabled person in your fucking comic book. I know I focused on Demon Slayer for the sales comparison, and that's because 1, it's an incredibly popular series, and 2, because I absolutely love the story that they're telling. And in the story that they're telling, there's no pandering, there's no real-world politics being pushed. It's just a fantastic story of a young man trying to save his sister from a terrible fate, all the while battling the forces of evil, insurmountable odds, and making great friends and strong relationships along the way. It's a story that can speak to anybody. There's something for people who love drama in there, people who enjoy horror elements. Hell, if you like goofy comic relief characters, there's even some of that too. Demon Slayer is a great example of what makes manga and anime so appealing to people. It offers a true escape, which is something that is so incredibly and sadly rare now, especially in American and Western media. Because now everything is so bogged down with real-world bullshit, and you have idiots that would tell you that you are privileged and it's a problem if you feel like escapism is necessary. You don't get to escape because you live such a privileged life, which is such bullshit. Every single person needs a fucking break every now and then, and that's what this kind of media is supposed to do for you. And that's not to say that you can't have or shouldn't have something that's grounded in reality. Hell, most of the stuff I like is very drama focused and gritty and based in real life, but sometimes I need a fucking break from that. I need something fun. I just want to watch an anime girl get her hand bitten by a dog and have her Kamehameha blast out of her mouth, okay? You just need something else. And let's just say that you don't like drama or horror. That's cool because there's countless of series for you to get into. You want something that's more slice of life? You want to see a husband and wife get up to some crazy shenanigans? Then you can watch something cute like I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying, which is a fantastic anime series. Check it out for sure. If you don't like that, maybe you like something that's more sports related, or maybe you just like anime boys, I don't know. Watch Free, which is a swimming anime, or Big Wind Up, which is a great baseball anime. Now, what does DC and Marvel have? superhero, another superhero, lesbian villain hero, captain pronouns, team diversity hire. They are soulless, shallow stories written and produced by these creepy pod people who use comics as a vehicle for their shitty, racist, and regressive politics. I used to get sad about the poor state of American comics, but when I think about it, I'm actually kind of glad that they're running them into the ground. I mean, when you have big people in the industry, like Garth Ennis, someone who actually wrote for Batman, saying things like, Batman is a billionaire aristocrat who beats up poor people. I don't think people like that deserve to write characters as important, culturally important, as Batman. Imagine saying that, having this huge misunderstanding about who a character actually is. A character who dedicates his life to not only protecting law-abiding citizens who are constantly under threat of death during your nights, but also doing everything you can as a massive corporation CEO to ensure that those citizens' lives are better on a daily basis during the day. If someone like Garth Ennis can't grasp what the character's essence actually is, they should have nothing to do with that character. If companies like Marvel and DC are so dead set on sacrificing their characters on the altar of social justice, I don't think they deserve to have those characters at all. Let them die and let them fade away, because at the very least, we will always have the comic classics, which endure and they are timeless, unlike the unremarkable Drek, these soulless products that are being slapped together by these cultist zombies. And hey, if this pushes more readers towards manga, where freedom of expression and artistic integrity and fans are respected, I'm all for it. And that's what I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I know this video ran a little long. I actually went off script for a lot longer now that I'm listening to this back and editing. Holy shit. But hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did make it all the way to the end, congrats and thank you. If you're one of those new viewers, if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe. And for everyone, if you did like the video, hit the like button, share this video around because it really does help me out. As always, I want to know what you think about all of this. What do you think about the state of American comics? Do you think everything's a-okay? You got a specific series maybe that you could recommend to me that you're enjoying? Or hell, if you got a manga or an anime series, let me know down in the comment section below. And of course, I have to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my channel members. You guys are fucking awesome. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, stay metal, and I will see you in the next video.